It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman, and joining us to talk about their book and program called Witness to Love, How to Help the Next Generation Build Marriages That Survive and Thrive. Such an important message at this time. So thank you so much for joining us, Ryan and Mary Rose Verret.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
What is maybe the best advice that you received before you got married, and maybe what is the worst advice that you got?
Mary, want to go first?
I think the best advice, we didn't hear it before we got married, but it was something we had talked about. We just heard it from a couple married 64 years, and they said, don't marry someone you can live with. Marry someone you can't live without. That was beautiful. We had talked about that a lot, just the importance of friendship. And Ryan and I were friends for 2 years before we even started dating. And that was just really a beautiful foundation for our marriage. And I think a lot of couples skip that step. So I would say that's the best advice.
Something that comes to mind. I don't know if I shared this with you before, Mary Rose, but actually we were at this place at the same time. We were in Toronto at World Youth Day years ago. Obviously, we were young, and I remember going to confession, and I was trying to just sort of discern what God was calling me to do. And this priest, I think about it now, it's probably one of the best suggestions I needed to hear at the time. I guess it was discerning marriage, and he said, look, you need to really just follow God and say yes. He said, because you're wasting too much time and you're developing all these single man's habits. And he said that's not going to serve you in any way for marriage. And I think back on that, I said, you know what, that was probably great advice. Because I think one of the things I try to do in marriage is to realize you cannot be a single person and have a single person's mindset living in marriage. And I think the best formation and prep for marriage is really good friendships, and I think that's what Mary Rose is highlighting. That time that we had before our marriage, we weren't cohabitating, obviously, and just to develop some of those great skills that are so important to a lifelong friendship in God.
Any bad advice or things you hear thrown around a lot within the context of marriage that you say it makes you cringe, maybe a little bit?
Yeah, I think one thing that comes up oftentimes is when we go to a party with somebody who's been maybe divorced, a couple of times and married. And one time we were at a party and someone lifted up a margarita and said, the next time I get married, that I'm going to do it for all the right reasons. It's going to be to make me happy. And a bunch of people cheered. I remember looking at Mary Rose and said, oh, this is probably not the best witness to what marriage is about.
Well, that is one of the problems of not just marriage, but just in life. Like, I want to make me happy. It sounds like it's so selfish, and that's so contrary to the concept of marriage, but so prevalent in our society.
Yeah, and I think that ongoing line that we use so much, and it's been at the heart of the Witness to Love process, that, a person really discovers himself and they make a gift of themselves, obviously from St. John Paul II. It's just such a common, the equation of sort of gift makes us sort of grow into the person God has called us to be.
Yeah. So how did Witness to Love get started?
Well, it got started basically through working, Ryan and I both working with engaged couples, really hundreds of couples over the years. And I worked in diocesan ministry and then also in parish ministry, and just seeing a room full of 70 couples. They were there, but they were checking a box. And it was something they had to do to use the church, is really how many of them felt. And they weren't necessarily coming for a sacrament. And it just seemed like such a missed opportunity. And then when we went to go work at a parish, we saw that, the same couples that we presented to in these big diocesan conferences, we get to the parish and they're nowhere to be seen. They're not going to church. Some of them are divorced. Even with newborn babies, it was so tragic. And so we really wanted to get these couples to stay married, happily married, and we wanted them to be going to church because we knew we couldn't help them if they weren't in church. And so we interviewed a lot of these couples who went through that process of basically going to a big diocesan conference, and then also even having assigned mentor couples at the parish. And the particular parish where Witness Love started, they had mentor couples. But the engaged couples didn't know them. They didn't choose them. They didn't have a relationship with them, and they didn't trust them. When it really came down to it, we asked the ones who got divorced, we said, why didn't you reach out to your mentors for help? And they said, they were they were super Catholics. They had a great marriage. And, we just didn't feel like we had a lot in common with them. We felt like they were judging us. And whether they were or not, we don't know.
Right.
But ultimately, they went to their friends who were divorced for advice. And so that is not going to end well. And so, many of these couples were getting divorced. And so Witness to Love basically came from desperation and asking the Holy Spirit for help, because the best of everything the church currently has to offer wasn't working. The divorce rate at this parish was 23%, and it's the national Catholic divorce rate average in the United States is 23% at 5 years after the wedding day. That's exactly what ours was. So that's tragic that really the best of what the church has to offer can't move the divorce rate, not because we don't have amazing resources and materials and theology and presenters and all of this. It's the relationships are missing. The engaged couples, many of them haven't been to church in years. Their parents are divorced. They may have a abuse history, pornography addiction. There's just so many wounds that need to be healed, and so little trust in the church that when we kind of pull the bureaucratic trigger of, okay, these are all the things you have to do before you get married in the church, it really drives them away, I think. And so we were trying to turn that around, and that's Witness Love started from a realization of that we needed to change something.
And so you started in one parish just testing things, or did you kind of take a step back and kind of reevaluate the whole program, or what was the process?
Well, we looked at what was working and what wasn't working. We interviewed a lot of the couples, and they said, that this whole idea of trust was important. So we said, well, we know mentoring is important. We know the theology of the body is important. We know meeting with Father is important. We know the sacrament. We know what they need, but we also know they need someone they trust who can be really in a relationship. And Ryan just said this earlier today to me. He said, couples, they don't need binders. They need bridges. They need relationships. They need people they can lean on. And so much of marriage prep is just folders and binders and books and DVDs, right?
And it's a process that if you step back and look at it, that most people involved in it don't really enjoy. It's remarkable how it came to this point, and I think what we discovered in Witness to Love was actually a process that actually not only that it really kind of sparks a lot of enthusiasm and motivation among the engaged couples, but also sort of the mentor couples that they choose, not assigned to them, not match made, but they choose, that it provides this essential component of marriage enrichment, which is so left out of the picture because parishes don't really know how to do that or how to provide like a resource or a platform for them besides like something in the church hall which only people like Mary Rose and I go to. But more, you don't just, the church can't be just like people like Mary Rose and I. There's a lot of other people, and Witness to Love is really a process that, allows parishes to think evangelically again, in a way that's consistent with Catholic teaching and virtue formation, but I think, that allows us to sort of grow into the people Christ has called us to be.
Yeah, we're talking with Ryan and Mary Rose Verret. You can find the website witnesstolove.org. It's got a lot of resources and information there. Also, the book Witness to Love: How to Help the Next Generation Build Marriages That Survive and Thrive is available. A great resource. And what is the Witness to Love program? How would a parish use your resources to change their marriage prep program?
So we have online trainings. We have live trainings. We're in 75 dioceses right now in the U.S. and Canada, and it's in English, Spanish, and it'll be out in French in June. So it's being very widely used, and just with beautiful feedback. And I think the online training is one of the best ways for parishes to use it. It's easily accessible. We have a parish review kit. We have a new initiative to reach civilly married couples, and so all of those resources are on our website. And the website's the best starting point, but then we have parish support team leaders who, once you kind of go through the online training, they personally sort of hold the hand of the parish's team as they go through implementing this. So there's a lot of hand-holding and mentoring that goes on. We even connect Witness to Love pastors to other Witness to Love pastors who are in similar situations. And just it is kind of a very mentoring, family-based effort. And it's always been a grassroots organization. And so we do a lot of connecting with people, and people are always surprised when they get phone calls and emails from us because they think, it's just a big, organization, but we travel a lot. We talk to people a lot. We're with people a lot. It's really a beautiful family of people connected around the country who are focused on evangelization, and they know that marriage is really one of the last holdouts for renewing the church, because so many people, they don't come to church, they don't get their children baptized, and this is really a beautiful opportunity to renew the future of the church.
One of the things you talked about was the flawed system of these mentoring couples, that it's not quite working out like it should. What is your suggestion on how we should move forward with mentoring couples, or without? I don't know what your tips would be.
Yeah, I could speak clear. I'll use an example of what a priest in Virginia said, and kind of compared the old way of which we did mentoring. He said in the past we would take the classical college curriculum trained couple that's using NFP that has a lot of friends that are priests, and basically pairing them up with the cohabitating, okay with porn, not really clear on church teaching on contraception couple, and basically saying, you need to have a great conversation about intimate things and sort of the theological understanding of the sacrament. And we know that this, obviously it's not bearing fruit, but that model has been the sort of what's been operating. But the Witness to Love process, and another priest mentioned this, he said, in the Witness to Love, you're asking engaged couples for the first time, for the most part, to discover a marriage in the church that they're going to be attending, or in the church in general, that has a marriage that they look up to, that a couple that's going to church, that's living a faithful sacrament, ask them to be a part of this process. So when the engaged couple discerns and chooses a mentor, we realize that it just opens up so much grace and generosity in a parish. And that it's funny, when that piece is in place, that discernment piece is in place, all the catechesis, all the difficult questions can have a platform to be talked about, hopefully resolved, but at least it's the beginning. Instead of just assuming that, kind of more information is going to solve all the problems, we realize that it's sort of the relationship first. Mary Rose might have something she wants to add about that as well.
And mentors are key. I think in the beginning, we always knew mentors were key, but we just didn't know how to make the pieces work. And when in the beginning, it was really just sort of a trial and error. Like, let's just see if letting them choose a mentor and focusing on a 2-for-1 evangelization effort, let's just see if it works, because what we're doing is just not working, and we're using the best of everything out there, so we have to try something. And immediately we saw, wow, they're going to church together. They don't mind doing their homework. They are enjoying the process. Oh, wow. The mentor couples decided to use NFP. The engaged couples decided to abstain. They also decided to use NFP. Oh, wow, they're going to church after the wedding day. All of which we just didn't expect it to be that easy. And people just be so enthusiastic and warm and excited. And the mentor couples introducing these couples to other couples at the parish. They're joining small groups. They're becoming volunteers. And when we first started, we never, ever dreamed that this would be something used nationally and even internationally. But I guess we could have, should have known, because the Holy Spirit does some incredible things. And when Witness to Love first started, before it even had the name Witness to Love, the initial sort of donors and people asking for resources were all parish priests. It was parish priests saying, hey, I talked to this priest, and he said this is working in his parish, and can you film a video of you working with a mentor couple and an engaged couple? I'll pay for it. Can you do that? Or can I have it in Spanish? I'll pay for it to be translated. Can you do that? And it wasn't parish funds. It was the priest. And so there are some amazing people in the church who knew we needed to do something different, and just their input, their support, their prayers over the years, that has kind of been what brought Witness to Love to be where it is today.
Very cool. Well, we did even get into the Civil Marriage Initiative, which is a great program that you've got for civilly married folk. So people need to check it out. Where should we send people for more information, and where can they get a copy of the book?
You can go to witnesstolove.org, and there's a tab right there. They can click on Civil Marriage Initiative and learn how they can bring civilly married Catholics into the sacrament of marriage.
All right.
Witnesstolove.org.
Thank you so much, Ryan and Mary Rose, for joining us and the great work that you're doing to help the future marriages. Hopefully, a lot of people participate in this and are able to reform their marriage prep programs and do great work for the church. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.